I might get blackballed for this, but you know I'm always going to tell you the truth. This is Media Watch, and I'm Marky Bilson. Boy, I hope that came out right. Here we go. Hey, everybody. We are now in, day number 4 of ETSU looking for a new permanent head men's basketball coach. On Saturday, the interim coach, Jason Shea, who I think should get the job, interviewed officially. But you wouldn't know that if you were reading the Johnson City Press or the Bristol Herald-Courier's website. And that is absolutely inexcusable. And yes, my saying that may actually come out and do me harm. He can't say that about us. I've felt that before, but the fact of the matter is I am never going to be successful writing little cutesy. Cloudland High School played really well on the football field today, and boy, did they try hard. That's just not, it's going to get you $30 a story. You're not ever going to be good, or you're not going to do anything for your profession if you just are lapdog and you ignore the story. And frankly, to have nothing on ETSU's coaching search for the last 2 days in both the Johnson City Press and the Bristol Herald-Courier's website, I haven't been able to get their physical paper. It's just inexcusable. Especially when it came out that John Rothstein of CBSSports.com reported that Shea had interviewed. You can easily in the Sunday paper, even if you can't back it up, just say, John Rothstein, small blurb, John Rothstein, CBSSports.com reports Jason Shea is interviewed for the ETSU head men's basketball position. Instead, what do we get? We get a story from the beat writer about his dog. Literally. We get, that makes it really look terrible. On Sunday, we can read about the writer's dog, but we don't read about the writer's beat when it's the story of the year. That's atrocious. Headline piece, last 2 sports sections of the Johnson City Press, were on the history of Science Hill basketball. And if you are an ETSU fan of Generation Y or older, that really is a raw nerve, because it is reminiscent of the days, which now seem to be back to us, where Science Hill, or for that matter, high school basketball, got so much more coverage than ETSU basketball. And there was always I'll bet this high school team could beat ETSU, and, that was never dismissed or anything. It got so bad that in the mid-90s, it came about that the high school games were preempting ETSU broadcasts on the radio. Now, remember, this is pre-internet, so you can't, just get the broadcast online or, watch ESPN Plus or something like that. You're reliant, if you're not there, and certainly if the Bucs are on the road, you're reliant on the radio. And if you're outside of the listening area, then it was, tough toenails and such. However, that was how important the radio broadcast was. And here they were preempting it for high school games. And so for a year, Keener Fry, who was the ETSU athletic director, actually changed stations so that would never happen again. And to my knowledge, it never has happened again, where high school games have preempted ETSU. But I'll even give you this example. There used to be a newspaper, bi-weekly sports newspaper, kind of a local, The National. Okay, it actually begat TriCitySports.com, which obviously, they're rerunning game stories about Sullivan South now. With, they're not doing anything for ETSU. Well, that just speaks for itself. We'll just say that. But that's their bread and butter. I get high school sports and all this. Okay, so they don't do a whole lot on ETSU on TriCitySports.com. All right, whatever. This is the deal, though. The paper that actually begat that website was Sports Talk. I used to write for it. I won awards writing for Sports Talk. The original publisher was Chip Kessler. In 2000, Sports Talk chose a sports person of the year for the 90s. Maybe it was the end of 99, I'm sorry, but around that turn of the decade. It wasn't officially the century or the millennium, but you know where I'm going with this. That sort of thing. Sports Talk, which was published by the former ETSU broadcaster, chose George Pitts, the Science Hill High School coach, as their sports person of the 90s over Keith Jennings in the Tri-Cities area. Now, who gave more national attention? I mean, this is a no-brainer. But that's how much high school sports outweighed ETSU in this market at that time. And quite frankly, it really makes ETSU, no, it doesn't make ETSU, it makes the area look towny when you are putting high school up above ETSU. And now that you're rerunning stories about how great Science Hill used to be, instead of giving us information on the coaching search at ETSU, we're back to those Tri-Cities towny days again. And it's disgraceful. I mean, what can I say? Now, I do understand that stories about your dog or historical pieces about Science Hill or whatever, those are written ahead of time. And a lot of times, because of the way hours work at newspapers and such, yeah, on the Sunday and Monday paper, a lot of features and all that, and they're pre-written. They're written a couple of days before. I played this game. I know it. And so, I mean, I get that. But there still is absolutely no excuse to not have anything about the ETSU coaching search for the last 2 days in the newspapers. Chris Johns, for instance, over at New Mexico State, he's been talked about as a candidate. Now, that is a perfect column to write. Look at the changes at ETSU. Under a previous administration, a cheerleader got kicked off the squad for working at Hooters. Meanwhile, we may now bring in a coach, or we can actively discuss Johns, who was fired at Bowling Green for, among other things, going to a bar, having one too many, and the way it was officially written out was he was then touching a woman's buttocks, called another woman a bitch. There was a lot of that. So those were the things that now ETSU is talking about bringing in that candidate. Totally different administration. That's a perfect column to write for Monday, or for that matter, Sunday. What's to blame for the lack of coverage about ETSU's coaching search? Now, again, I've played this game, and sometimes I know that newspaper management, they'll put a strict decree, no overtime, breaking story here, no overtime, you can't do the story. But there is one way to get around that. Somebody's got to lay out the paper. Okay, even if it's working on Christmas, somebody lays out the paper. And so, therefore, on Sunday, to not have a blurb, even if they have no journalistic experience whatsoever, but not to write the blurb that, CBS Sports, Rothstein is reporting that Jason Shea has interviewed for the head men's basketball coaching position at ETSU, to not just have that as a blurb and that Rothstein reports, absolutely inexcusable. You know what else I think is inexcusable? There's no press release written by the Sports Information Department at ETSU, to my knowledge, because I haven't seen it, but why wasn't there a press release written promoting the Shea interview? It's a publicist's job to get publicity for the entity he or she represents. And in the past, ETSU did reveal their coaching finalists for the position. Say back, and I know it's 24 years ago, but back in 1996 when the position went to Ed DeChillis, Ed DeChillis, Jeff Lebo, Buzz Peterson, and Derek Wittenberg, those names were all released to the media. In fact, they were all, presented to the media. So features were done about them in the newspapers and such. And you could see that even though ETSU was really down, they were 7-20, Keener Fry, their then athletic director, could bring in a group of really stellar coaching candidates. People wanted to come to ETSU. Even with the poor record, it was still a desirable job. And all those coaches took teams to the NCAA tournament once they got head coaching positions. All of them got head coaching positions. All of them took their teams to the NCAAs. And assuming you think that the Atlantic 10 is a major college basketball conference, and I do, all of them wound up coaching in major conferences. DeChillis, Lebo, Peterson, and Wittenberg. That's a good crop of candidates. 7 years later, 2003, again, even under David Mullins, it was released, Murray Bartow, Dean Keener, Mark Sloanacre. Now, that sort of told you that maybe David Mullins was in over his head as the AD when he had a turnkey team to the NCAA tournament, and he brought in 3 potential coaches that, well, Bartow, Keener, and Sloanacre, that's not the crop that DeChillis, Lebo, Peterson, and Wittenberg were. Bartow, did a credible job here. He had 12 years and took the Bucs to 3 NCAA tournaments. No coach ever took the Bucs to more NCAA tournaments than Murray Bartow. And hey, he wound up at UCLA for a little bit. So, we can say all you want to about he played the zone too much and all this, but, he became, actually, in my opinion, a better looking coach, well, certainly when he was wearing the suits at UCLA that he did, but his stock rose, let's just say, when it was released, the candidates that he beat out, even though, Sloanacre and Keener really didn't have great coaching careers at at Mercer and James Madison, respectively. Anyway, I know that's a long time ago, and people have told me things have changed, that the rules are such that, they don't have to do that anymore. But why don't they do that anymore? That's the question. Why wouldn't Jason Shea be made available to the local sports writers covering the team, even if such media sessions are done on the phone or the internet in this, quarantine era? Why don't you report, hey, we have a candidate here, ask him your questions, folks. Why don't you do that? Creates a buzz. Shea seems to be the guy everybody wants. By not doing that, it makes ETSU look like they're embarrassed about the potential coaches they're bringing in. That's the last thing they should be. They should not be embarrassed about the coaches that they are potentially bringing in. Folks, I'm Marky Bilson. If you like the commentary that I give, I ask you to follow me on not only Medium, but certainly on YouTube. We have now almost 1,200 videos, including an extensive ETSU page in which I have more than 200 videos, including an interview that I did with Jason Shea from the past after his first coaching victory. That was a couple of years ago when he was the interim coach and beat Reinhardt by 47 points. So you can see how well he'll do with the media in my archived interview, Jason Shea. That is in the ETSU Buccaneers playlist, or you can do just a search, Marky Bilson, Jason Shea. But you get updates all the time on this channel. So here you go. Hit the bell, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram. You will be kept in the know because you're not getting it from the newspapers for the last 2 days. I'm Marky Bilson.